There we go. All right, we're opening our hearts and sharing our treasure. Um, this is our agenda for the 3 sessions. Last week we covered annual giving, and we really just jumped in and got going with it. Today, we're going to take a little deeper look at the deep end of the pool, kind of maybe stick our feet in it and think about how deep it goes. Because next week, we're going to spend a lot of time on a deep dive. We're going in head first next week, folks. So get your swim trunks ready. Next slide. Oh, there we go. This we are the Stewardship Commission of the Diocese of New Jersey. You will also see us referred to as Project Resource. Basically, it boils down to the folks you see here. I am a co-chair and I'm also a member of St. Francis in Dunellen. The other co-chair is Reverend Megan Thomas, who is retired. And then Stephanie, Lou, Nicole, and Bill join us. And I have to say, this is a complete team effort to get these webinars done. Next. As I said, opening our hearts, opening our treasure, sharing our treasure. Well, where are they? How do we find them? What do we do? That kind of thing. Luke gives us some guidance where he presents Jesus's first. It starts off with the parable about the man with the too much grain. He had to build an extra silo. But then he progresses down here to your father's good pleasure to give you his kingdom. We will make purses for ourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It's basically, we want to focus on heavenly things, not earthly things, and God provides. Next. This is tonight's agenda. First, we're going to do a quick recap of what we covered last week. And we're going to talk about how to cultivate a spirit of generosity, how we might overcome the fall blahs, the same old, same old. We have to realize that even though we're a little focused on treasure right now, time and talent are still important to share. We're going to talk about maintaining momentum after the campaign is completed. Keep it going. St. Stephen's is going to have a case study for us. Stephanie Bodine will be talking about what they do all year round. Next, please. This is pretty much a summary of what we did last week. It really falls into 4 main points, which is you have to recruit your team. And we talked about who makes a good team member. Next is you have to make a plan, set a timeline, set a goal, set a theme. And then once you make your plan, it's time to implement it. That's when you have a launch, a little luncheon or coffee hour, make it a big deal, a kickoff event. And then once you're implemented the plan all the way through, the campaign closes, you're not done yet. There's still follow up and follow through to do, like thank you letters, that kind of thing. Okay, next.
So thank you, Christy, for getting us started. One of the things that your congregation stewardship committee or your treasurer or whoever is responsible for some of the financial aspects of congregational life, well, we often fall into an attitude of scarcity, and we worry naturally that there isn't enough in our coffers to maintain the ministries that we hope to maintain. Often that just comes down to worrying about the building and salaries. But when we approach stewardship in an attitude of scarcity, we sort of constrict ourselves and limit our outlook. So I've come to appreciate Henry Nouwen's work, this little thin book he has called A Spirituality of Fundraising, in which he really puts the emphasis on abundance. And so we urge you to cultivate a spirit of generosity rather than anxiety over scarcity. Next. It's simply true that people who are deeply engaged with your work will tend to be generous, and that's true for lots of nonprofit organizations. But asking for money, which is really what we're attempting to do in our fall stewardship campaigns, although we don't like to say that, we get a little nervous using those words, asking for money. Henry Nouwen takes the attitude that if you are asking people for money, what you're really doing is trying to engage them in the work, the mission, and ministry that's been entrusted to your congregation. So you're asking people to invest themselves, their time, their talent, their prayers, their energy, but likewise, their financial resources. And it's well known that people give to mission as opposed to just keeping the lights on. In addition, and moreover, stewardship calls us to conversion and collaboration because we're asked to think about the resources we have, that treasure, in a new way, to think about relationships instead of just never having enough. Next slide. And so we ask you to think about how you give. And we're going to see if we can't get this little video going. There we go. Now this video has some funky background music, which we're going to ignore. We've turned it off. And this video was produced in 2010, so inflation has changed the numbers a little bit. But I think if we watch this list being made, we'll get a sense of what it means to give from your first fruits rather than from your leftovers. So you can see there are some things that are absolutely essential, no question. We have to buy groceries. We have to care for our children. Uh-oh, but what's happening to the church pledge? Well, we have cable, we have internet, gas for the car, all these demands that are placed upon us. Yeah, insurance, you have to have car insurance. You can't go without that. You need your prescription medications. That is true. Uh-oh, there goes that church pledge again. Now we're getting down to a point where some of this is discretionary. I don't know how many of you have had this experience as well. You know, you work out your budget and you try to figure out how you can do every month the things you need to do to pay for the things that you must have for your family and for yourself. What's discretionary? We'll just let this continue. Call church and revise pledge. Let's start over. So you see, earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. That is the message behind this video. And the urge is to put your contribution to the mission and ministry of the church at the top of your list and see if it wouldn't be possible to make that pledge as important to you as the car insurance, the prescription medications, the groceries. And we all know how difficult things are, and inflation takes its toll. But we don't want to be just giving our leftovers to our congregations. Next slide. Christy, this is you.
Yes. Proportional giving. To follow up with what Mother Megan was just saying about first fruits and giving to God. Basically, we're giving back to God what came from God. And we need to do it in a way that's sustainable for ourselves, but yet sacrificial and meaningful as a gift to God. The proportional giving chart in front of you. There are two charts, this one and the next. They're intended to help people figure out how much to give. These are both practical tools. St. Francis, we send them out with either our warden's letter or the stewardship letter. And it's, again, a tool to help people figure things out. Sometimes when we're talking about stewardship, the word tithe might come up. And the idea of a tithe comes from, it's a Bible-based idea of giving 10% of our income. We at Project Resource are not saying yes tithe, no tithe. That's entirely up to you, your congregation. That's not for us to say. But one thing similar to a tithe, which we do think is a good idea, is a giving percentage. Think about what portion of my income can I give, should I give, will I give? And it's that way, there's a couple advantages. One is that people who decide to give 5%, say, they think that a 5% chunk of their income is what they want to give back. Okay, but the advantage for them is if their job changes, if they're working less hours at work and their income changes, well, they're still thinking, I'm giving 5% of my income. The dollar value may change, but I'm still giving proportionally as I planned. So people can still feel like they are contributing as much as they wanted to. So it's a positive thing for people. So they don't feel like, well, I can't give what I pledged, so I'm not going to give anything. Or I can't give what I pledged, so I'm really then just going to cut it back, and next year we'll reevaluate. And then the other thing too with this is that it's a good starting point for people. Say, someone who does want to tithe, but they look at that 10% number and are like, oh my gosh, there's no way my monthly budget can absorb that at this time. So this year, say, I'm starting with 4%. And then as as time progresses, you gradually move up with your percentages, and you can end up, where you'd like to be, if that's 10% or more, what have you. So like I said, it's a tool to help people see the proportional giving, that how much that can add up, I think. Next. And this one, I think, is courtesy of Consecration Sunday program. Each line here is we call it a step, and this is a weekly giving amount that a particular giving unit or family person will give in a given week. This is completely customizable to your congregation. the amounts that are there are they're there on the PDF kind of fixed, but if you wanted to change them, you could. But the numbers in red, those are particular to your congregation. So for example, whichever congregation this came from, there are 11 people. Down the bottom, you see 11. So there are 11 giving units, whether that's families or people, but were 11 pledges that said we will give $5 to $9.99 a week. And again, like with the uh, proportional giving chart, it's a way to grow how much you choose to give. We always ask that too, will you grow 1 step this year? Or will you grow 1% this year? If you don't have access as a stewardship person, have access to these pledge numbers, I don't. Hopefully your finance person or someone else in stewardship can get you the numbers. And it's just it just shows where the bulk is coming from. And again, it's a tool for people who are new to the church or who are new to the idea of giving to support a church. Some churches do it the other way. The diocese provides to the congregation. Well, the congregations provide to the diocese, and that's sometimes news for people. So this is another way to say, look, I want to start to give. I don't even know what number to think about. So this gives people an idea that, well, it looks like 43 people are in that $20 to $40. So, okay, so I'm not committing myself to $200 a week. It's a start. And again, it's something every year you can ratchet up a little. So it's, again, a good tool. Next, please. Good news. Yes, there is good news. I'm going to skip statistics and kind of generalize here a little bit. But the good news is that people of faith and faith institutions are really, really generous. And it's with not just money, it's time, it's goods, it is places, it is space space for groups, it's volunteer hours, it's supporting community programs. So these faith institutions become pillars of their community, and the people who support the financial institution, they in turn, they support the institution. And I guess my one message here is that, if I may, is that let's keep this up. Let's keep up the fact that people of faith, which we are, all of us here are people of faith. Let's keep it going. Let's keep giving. Let's keep growing. That's just my 2 cents. Next, please. Okay, transparency. Mother Megan mentioned earlier the M word, money. And that's not something we say or talk about frequently. And it's something I think we should talk about more. I know people get a little uncomfortable when we talk about money. And like I was saying, people of faith are so generous. That's great. But they may want to know where their money is going to, how is it being used. So it's important to let people know that, we're not throwing your money on a hat party. So let's talk about transparency and financial transparency in this context of stewardship. It's really based, what we really need to do is share how the congregation raises its money, how much is coming in, and how much of the income that comes in is just from giving, pledge numbers. Is it 60% of your income? Because that can be eye-opening to people to know that, geesh, 70% of the entire income comes from the congregants. And people don't always know that. Um, and then on the flip side, people also want to know, well, where does all that money go? I'm part of that 70%. So where does it end up? Um, so here's kind of the key that Mother Megan talked about a little bit too, which is we need, in the stewardship context, we need to show people where every dollar goes, and it goes towards the mission and ministry of the church. Every dollar supports that. And I'm talking about your electric bill to the landscaper. Um, it can take a little bit of effort to put these numbers together. I would enlist help from the clergy, your finance people, and the chairs of your ministry groups, like whoever does your outreach ministry. They would be good for information. So, so again, you're tapping people to find out, well, yeah, we're paying the electric bill, but the electric bill keeps the lights on. And because the lights are on, we can hold worship service. So where I am funding worship. That's kind of the logic we're going to go down. Um, and I suggest what we've done is all of this information, all of the income, and all of the outgo looks really good in pie charts. So if you just want to put two pie charts up in your narthex with income and expenses, and the expenses are strictly ministry and mission, that can be eye-opening to people, I think. The other option is narrative budget. Last week we had a couple examples of one, and I apologize, I owe a couple of you the draft version of a narrative budget we had. I had not forgotten. But anyway, a narrative budget was just like more text in explaining how worship is defined as electricity and a functioning parking lot and that kind of thing. So
Christy, do we want to stop here and take some questions, take some
yes.
time? Yeah, so we'll take a couple of questions, knowing that at the end of this entire presentation, we'll have some breakout rooms and then an opportunity to come back together again and share information. Are there any questions from attendees at the moment? Seeing none, I guess we can move on.
Okay, give me just 1 second.
Sure.
All right, you should be able to see that now.
Okay, next slide, please. So one of the things we know happens with our congregational stewardship efforts is they tend to fall into sort of a rut of doing the same thing every year. A letter comes from the rector, a letter comes from the finance chair, a pledge card is sent in the mail. There's a day when the pledge cards are turned in, and not a lot else happens. In part because we get accustomed to doing things the way we've always done them, and we get busy with other matters, and it's just easy to go back and cut and paste from last year and the year before and the year before without making a significant effort to try something different. And we just want to offer a few things, few ideas that you may find interesting, that might be a little different, that you haven't tried before. And I know there's a lot of wisdom out there in our congregations because I've heard people share ideas. Maybe we'll get a chance to do that towards the end of the presentation. Next slide. So a couple of times I have encouraged the congregation to do member-to-member communication. And the way we've done it is to take the church directory and divide it up among a group of people, at least 10. So it depends on how big your congregation is. My congregation was pretty small. But you will need inexpensive note cards, pens, stamps, the church directory, several people who are able, more than several people, 10 people at least, maybe a dozen, maybe 15, are willing to write a short note along the lines of this little note here, sign it, stick it in the envelope, address the envelope, put a stamp on it, and they all go in the mail at the same time. So you're all sort of writing to each other. One of the nice things about writing a note, especially a handwritten note, is so rarely today do we get handwritten communication from anyone. So rarely do we get first-class mail in our mailboxes, that a little note like this could capture someone's interest and perhaps pique their interest in participating. Now, I wrote here in red, all vestry should participate. And the reason I wrote that there is because leaders lead. And that's true in every organization, whether you're a church or some other nonprofit or a for-profit. The leaders of the organization must take an active role. Leaders lead. But you can also make this a party. It shouldn't feel burdensome. Do it in a way that encourages people to show up. So here's my little note. Dear Anna and Jim, Paul and I are making our pledge to Holy Trinity for 2026. We are so grateful for the way Father Sam took care of our family when Mom was dying. And we are impressed by the parish garden, which is donating produce to the food bank. Good things are happening in our parish. Won't you join us in making a pledge to Holy Trinity with thanks for all God is doing in and through our church? Blessings, Becky. Holy Trinity is a make-believe church. It's my special make-believe church, and these characters, Father Sam and Becky and others, show up in some of our presentations because they're the little people who populate my imaginary church. Next slide, please. Nicole.
All right, this is me. Thank you. All right, so during stewardship season, we want our congregations to hear real voices and real stories. So we're recommending, and you probably do this already, but we want to emphasize that over the series of Sundays during stewardship season, we want members of our churches and possibly representatives from the groups that we serve share their stories during our worship services. This might take place, for example, during the announcements or during the time where there's preaching, might happen after or near the end of the service. Whatever best fits your specific congregation, at the discretion, of course, as your clergy in charge. But firstly, it might be ideal to have someone speak to their offering of time, for example, through volunteering in the church community, having yet another person speak about their giving of their talent. So like what gifts they offer the church. And finally, we would want someone else to talk about their giving of their treasure or their monetary giving. So for example, the person speaking about their time offering might share how they volunteer a day a week in the church thrift shop and what that means in their spiritual life, how it benefits the people that they serve through the thrift shop. It might also highlight how the church benefits from the thrift shop. The individual speaking about the talent might be, for example, someone from the choir who was transformed through their offering in the choir, or how they've been transformed and how they transform the worship of the service. And finally, the person who speaks about the giving of their financial resources might focus on the intentionality of why they give and what it means to their faith life. When we invite speakers, we're going to want them to aim we want to aim for a variety of individuals reflecting what our church looks like. So the demographics of our church, the age groups of our church, the backgrounds of the individuals in our church. Again, we might want to invite people from organizations that we work with, that we support, so Al-Anon or other nonprofits, to come and provide some remarks as well. And that way we remind our members, or sometimes they're learning for the first time, to be honest, that they could see the breadth of the impact our church has on the surrounding community and why it's so important to continue to support the mission. To make the stewardship testimonies the most effective, we recommend keeping them brief, so no more than 5 minutes, making it personal, having the speakers share a story of God's grace in their life, his work in their life. And it's probably a great idea to have them write it out in advance so that they're not there speaking off the cuff. And really the goal in all of this is to be authentic and honest, provide a heartfelt witness and inspire people and not guilt people and not boast, but really from your heart speak about how your giving has transformed you and how it mutually benefits the church. Next slide, please. Yeah, so when we plan our testimonials, again, we want to make sure that the voices we hear reflect the people of our congregation. So that means as best as we can, including members of different racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds. Not only that, but I would say we have, maybe widows of our church. We have married peoples of our church. We want people to feel seen and heard. And so it's a good idea to have a sampling from various groups, maybe through economic situations or making sure we include members with different abilities or disabilities. We also want to include young people, so maybe teens or children, because their experiences matter. They need to be heard as well. So youth might share what it means for them to give of their time serving as an acolyte or to help in other ways. And their perspective helps us see how every member, regardless of their age or their stage in life, that they're a vital part of our church's story. And when all of our voices are heard, our message for stewardship becomes richer and more inclusive. Next slide, please. Again, not just for adults, but stewardship is for our youth, our children, our teens, and they have an important role to play here. They're learning even now what it means to give of their time, talent, and treasure. So we can and should invite our young people from the different areas of our church life, whether they're acolytes or just Sunday school children, youth group members, choir members, or what have you. Hearing from them reminds us that stewardship is a value and an example that we pass on to the next generation. Maybe instead of inviting one youth to come and provide a stewardship testimonial, it might work better for safety in numbers to have a group come up and possibly interview that small group together, make them feel more comfortable and yet still let their voices be heard. And the next slide. So if you're preparing to share a stewardship testimonial, this is a real nice outline to have available to those that are invited to do so. Firstly, we want them to introduce themselves, recognizing that not everyone may know them or you. And even if they do, they probably don't know your story, or they don't all know your story. The second, again, is to make it personal, be authentic, tell your own story, be honest about any doubts or difficulties that we've had along the way. And that really, as we all know, builds connection among people. That's really the game changer right there. Take a moment to define what being a Christian, a disciple, means to you in our own words. Next, we would share how we began practicing stewardship, maybe how how our giving started as a gratitude response to God for who He is, and all that He has done in our lives. Explain how stewardship has become an intentional way of giving back to Him, of offering time, sharing gifts, or giving financially. Then we want to reflect on what benefits we realize through the giving that we have done. Speak to how generosity has shaped our faith, maybe even how it has just built up our trust in God's provision and God's faithfulness. And give specific examples. And finally, we want to have this individual or individuals invite others from the church to join them and encouraging them to pledge this year, whether that's through time, talent, or treasure, but to give of themselves so that we could continue to advance the mission of the church and give what we've been entrusted to give back to God. Next slide.
So stewardship at best is an all year long endeavor. And that means there are opportunities during the year to study stewardship. You can do it through Bible study, and you can do it through book study. And here are some starting points that we've put up here for you to look at. And actually, one of them is quite pertinent because you heard this 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, the story of the rich fool, the farmer who was so fortunate to have a very large crop. He had to tear down his barns and build new barns. And yet that very night, his soul was demanded of him, and who would receive his inheritance then? And that it's better to build, to create purses for yourselves in heaven. And so all of these are opportunities to dig into scripture in a group study, do Bible study in the way that works best for your congregation. There's various approaches to Bible study that you can, if you haven't tried, you can go online and search for. But this is a way to keep people thinking about stewardship through the year. Next slide, please. And of course, there's opportunities for book study as well. And I've just suggested a few books here. One I have been reading myself, which is A Spirituality of Fundraising by Henry Nouwen, which is also available in Spanish. It's a very thin book and it's easy to get through. The former Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, wrote a book on being disciples, essentials of the Christian life, and he touches on stewardship of our gifts as well. And then if you want something that's fairly light, but engaging and might be appropriate for some groups, Anne Lamott, who's a very engaging and entertaining writer, has written Help, Thanks, Wow, the 3 Essential Prayers. And the section on thanks is really nice. And that too would make a very good small group study and an opportunity to think again about stewardship in a different manner. Next slide. Christy.
Yes. Using social media, and actually we're talking about all media. Last week we talked a bit about a multimedia blitz. This is part of that. We're talking about recording testimonials. I think the key to the testimonials, don't make it a one and done event. Record it, put it on your website, put it on Facebook, have a teenager put it on TikTok, print out what it was the person said, put it in the newsletter. So you want to maximize your usage of the testimonials that come your way. Next.
Lou, this is
Yes.
you.
There are many ways to help your parishioners understand the importance that stewardship plays in their Christian journey. and several have been mentioned already. But new members in particular need to be educated about pledging, and how pledging is a key way to thank God for the endless gifts that we receive. Those coming from other faiths, I'll use Catholicism as an example, sometimes need to understand that the parishioners support the church, that money doesn't flow down to the church from some magical source. In fact, we help to fund the diocese in our case. Our priests have lots of opportunities to address scriptural teachings on stewardship through sermons, through Bible studies, through other opportunities. Children and youth should be introduced to giving. You have a great opportunity in the children's worship service. Pledge cards for children, you know, sending the offering plate around, teaching about stewardship in Sunday school, and certainly in confirmation class, stewardship is addressed and should be addressed. The vestry is very important in this whole stewardship process, and I think it's been mentioned in ways already that the vestry needs to model stewardship. It's expected, if you're a vestry member, if you read the handbook, that you pledge to the church. And, you know, little things like maybe the vestry sending a letter out to the congregants during the stewardship process and say, we have all pledged to the church and we're asking for your support too in pledging. The finance committee and the stewardship committees work very closely together in trying to keep everyone informed as to where things stand. The worst thing I believe you can do is not let people know what your financial situation is in your church. You need to get the information out. There are lots of ways to do that. Annual meetings, preparing the budget, presenting the budget to the parishioners, getting the parishioners to approve the budget at the annual meeting, through visioning processes on, you know, where do we see our church 5-10 years out, both in terms of our membership and our mission that we're engaging in, and the financial aspects of that. Parish communications, bulletin, a great way to kind of keep people up to speed with how we're doing against our budget throughout the year. Where we go to church, we're in a seasonal church, and summers are tough, and we always struggle in the summertime, but we need to let people know that. And it's surprising how many people will stand up and try to kick in during the summer to help us pay our bills. Next slide, please. Many of you may have done time and talent surveys. These are very useful ways to get an idea of what people's skills are and what their interests are and how they can share those interests, and are they willing to share those interests to support the ministry of the church. Nicole is going to talk to you a little bit about the estimated dollar value of volunteering to the church, and it's pretty surprising. It helps a lot. Some people may not have the financial resources to make a significant pledge to the church, but they may have talents, they may have trades, they may have skills, and are willing to do some things around the church, both the physical plant and providing other kinds of services in the church, in the office, etc., to help the church in their operations and their functioning. A time and talent survey is also an excellent way for parishioners to give you an idea of what they're willing to contribute and do. It can be distributed as a part of the campaign, the stewardship campaign, but you can also give it to new members throughout the year as they join the church. I have one caution though. If you send this out and someone fills it out, you must follow up. Do not collect this information and then not follow up because you're sending a bad message. Next slide, please. So
So at this point, Stephanie Bodine will share with us her experience at St. Stephen's in Whiting.
Mhm. Thank you, Megan. The list here is helpful. Everybody has to make their own version of whatever works for them during the year. We do somewhat of what this is, but a little bit variation of it. I started watching these slides a couple of years back, and I learned a lot of different things. And I went back to my husband's been the stewardship chair for 7 years. And I said to him, let's do all year round stewardship. So I incorporated a lot of what I've learned on these slides over the years. And St. Stephen's is located in Whiting, New Jersey. We're in the heart of the Pinelands. We're between the cathedral and the shore on Route 539. And the building has been around about 40 years. We are predominantly a senior population. We are surrounded by senior communities, and we are one of about 6 churches in the area, but we are the community church. Everybody knows us. Everybody comes to our events, and we have a food pantry. We have a clothing ministry. We have a lot of AA groups, and we've had in the past different other groups. We are the home of the Pineland Symphonic Band, and they are very gracious to do a concert every year. But we get organized kind of in the late spring, early summer. And this year we're going to try a stewardship Bible study. We've never done that before. And we decided to honor all of the ministries. We have many of them in our church. So we're going to have one Sunday in September where we ask each of the people in their various ministries to create a table with some information on it about their ministry and talk one-to-one. A lot of people don't volunteer, but if you talk to them one-to-one, they have no idea what it's about, or they, don't want to get involved. But if you talk one-to-one, then they get more interested and say, oh, maybe I'd like to volunteer and help with that. And what we hope to do after we do that is to honor them all with certificates and have a luncheon after the ministry. It'll be incorporated after our second service. We have an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock service every week. And during the month of September, we start first with an introduction to stewardship. And then the next week, we talk a little bit about the Bible, and a lot of the items that were on a previous slide have been useful. We correlate where stewardship is in the Bible and talk a little bit about the connection. And then the next week, we have help from our finance team or our treasurer and talk a little bit about the finances and what our needs are, and try to encourage people to step up and do a little bit more than last year. In the fall,
just
we
wanna-
also, you can
I
do the
just want
next
to
slide.
interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, next
please.
slide. In the
There-
fall, we also do a fireside chat. What we did was we found on YouTube a fireplace that looks really pretty good with the fire going, and we individual members of the stewardship team sit at different tables with the people at coffee hour. We've done it a different way. Sometimes we've had apple cider and donuts. Sometimes we've had cocoa and cookies, and we've had different things. But we found by the committee sitting one-to-one, people have opened up and said, more one-to-one about, well, why don't we do this? Or what about that? Or what do you think about that? And we got conversations going about things they liked, things they thought could be different or better. And then the next week, we start having individual people from the congregation speak. There's a different person at 8 o'clock and a different one at 10 after the minister does their sermon. Then we have a little bit, everybody kind of approaches it differently, but it's how the Holy Spirit talked to them, and anything they want to relate about God and their experience at the church or in life. And many of our people are former Roman Catholics, so they have found a home in the Episcopal Church they did not find in the Roman Catholic Church, which is interesting. And, they talk about whatever they want to share about things in their life that were better because of God and because of the relationship with friends they made at church. And then we go to Consecration Sunday, which is usually in November. And we ask for a special speaker. We've had different people from the diocese. And this year we have the Reverend Dave Snyder, who was a member of Project Resource in a past year. And he is both our celebrant at that service as well as, talking for Consecration Sunday. People fill out their pledge cards and we collect them in the collection plate. They bring them up to the altar and they are blessed. And on those pledge cards, we have a place for people to write that they want to put the church in their will. And so then they become a member of what we call the Legacy Society. And we do honor them during the year. And at the maybe about June, we have a special luncheon to thank everyone that has put the church in their will. And not everybody makes every one of the events, but whatever, event they can make, that is terrific. Then what we do also is we created a legacy summit. We found out that many people being older hadn't made plans for the end of life. And it's very hard to do that when you're faced with a death in your family at that moment in time. It's better to plan ahead so that you can plan what kind of service you would like and what kind of, make sure your will's in place. So what we did was we invited people from our area. We have a lawyer, we have a funeral director, we had our bank, of course, our clergy, a financial expert, and then either a doctor or a nurse who deals with end-of-life issues. Each person speaks for about 10 minutes about their particular area of expertise. And people can ask a few questions, and then people, for everybody, and then they can go one-to-one. We set up a table for each speaker, and they can ask their specific requests or information that they need for their situation. And every table has different brochures on it, different information from that particular area, plus business cards. And we also invited a couple of other groups in our area. We have caregiver volunteers, we have BIATA nurses, VNA, and another group that deal with helping seniors when you have to make decisions on either having an aid or help with transportation or other areas related to that kind of thing. And then we have a special group called Senior Moments when you have to deal with Medicare and you don't know what to do. We're getting into the enrollment period at this point in time. So between now and November, it's a free service all year round. They're available to answer questions for people. They've been very helpful if you're in one particular medical insurance area and you're not sure if that's the best one for you. They help you go through what the possibilities are and actually help you to decide if you're in the right place or if some other company would be a better choice. And we've even had them come back and do a separate seminar. We've had the banker come back too and do a separate seminar for people that had, specific questions. And then the local funeral home has been very generous. They provide a lovely luncheon for us. And we often get people that either lost the business card or at the moment didn't need that information. So all year round, people are always asking me questions about what about that person, or, what was the name of that person, or do you have a business card or whatever? And some of them actually have their business cards in our newsletter, so people can contact them that way. We have, in December, we do a thank you luncheon for everyone that has pledged. We do send out a letter of thank you. And we also try to connect with people that maybe we're at church, because we have a lot of seniors that live in nursing homes nearby, or they're homebound, and they don't always get there for the actual consecration Sunday. So we send out a different letter to them to kind of jog their memory and have them included. And then once in a while, we find that we've got somebody that is irregular in attendance or went to Florida. And so we send out another letter to those people that are not there every year, but kind of irregular attenders, and just jog their memory. And all three do respond. We get, some kind of commitment from every one of them. We do all kinds of fundraising all year round to augment the amount that's pledged. And we, two of our events are, we had a bunch of English ladies back in the day, and we inherited an English tea, which has become an American version of an English tea. But we used to do one a year. It's so popular. We do two a year, and people have asked for more. So we'll see if we can do 3 or 4 of them. But people are very, very happy with that. We do an annual fair on around Labor Day, which is a flea market. We call it Dignified Junk. People clean out their closets and things, and we make a lot of money. One of our biggest fundraisers off of all of that. And that Pinelands band I told you about, they do a concert for us every year. We had Women's Retreat. We've had, other fundraisers during the year, dinners. People like to eat. We're known for our outreach and our food. So be happy to answer anything else if anyone has any other questions. But everything, you have to adapt it to fit your situation, and what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. But we have to learn to move in different directions and change things as time has moved along. So next slide.
I want to thank you so much,
You're welcome.
because what you are telling us is that this is not simply a stewardship of, raising money from
No.
members of the congregation, but a stewardship of taking care of the health of the congregation
Mhm.
and their well-being in many, many respects. And all of that intersects with our, life within the church, the feeling that God is providing for us, that we are caring for one another. All of this is so important that we understand it's not just about, repeating that we need money, we need your money. That's not the approach we want to take.
No,
Thank you. Thank you for
you're
that.
welcome.
Lou, you're on.
Okay, and I saw a message come across, but I didn't get a chance to read it, but I think you want me kind of to speed it up a little bit, right?
We want to leave time for breakout rooms.
Okay, so I'll go quickly on this, but this may not seem to be quite a stewardship topic, but I think it's very related and important. God expects us to be evangelists. And we as Episcopalians aren't particularly good at that. I'll speak for myself. And it's, we kind of expect people to kind of show up, come into church when they're ready to do, and we'll greet them and be nice to them and that kind of thing. But, part of our role, if, to expand our missions in our church and to support the community and do the things that God expects us to do, it takes people. And I don't know about you, but our church, we struggle. We're an aging population. We're in a resort community. The homes are too expensive. People can't afford to live there. It's a lot of traffic in the summer to come. We don't have enough parking. We have lots of challenges for people coming to our church, and maybe some of you have some similar ones and some other ones. So there is an initiative that we became in contact with, Invite, Welcome, Connect. And I encourage you to take a few moments to buy the book, take a look at it. It has some, I think, some really good ideas. It's not a silver bullet for success for being evangelist. It's not rocket science. What it is, it's a very deliberate, process-oriented, repetitive approach to being good, welcoming Christian evangelists. And it can be adapted to your congregation, and it can help you attract and retain members and who come to support your ministries. Just very quickly, the invite portion of that is to systematically, if we move to the next slide, reach out to the community, to invite visitors to attend the church, come to events. This Saturday, we have a pancake breakfast at Advent. And it's a great time to have the community come in, walk around, introduce yourself, invite people to see the sanctuary if they're interested, give them information about the church. We do concerts, we do lectures, we do AA, we do, a lot of the things that you do. But when people come into the church, we need to take a little time to give them a little takeaway about the church, a little information about it. What are the missions and events that we do? Invite people to come back and visit us. Tour them through the sanctuary if they're interested. Have members invite family and friends to come to church events and to visit the church. I find for the pancake breakfast on Saturdays, the best thing is for me to send out the flyer to the people that I know and say, I'd like you to come. It sounds simple, but it works. Check your websites, your signage, your social media. Make sure your grounds are welcoming, clean, that you have a sign that promotes all are welcome to the church. So next slide. Speaking of the welcome part, so if somebody comes in, we want to make sure they can understand our service if they come to our service. I attend every once in a while a church up in Short Hills, Christ Church, Short Hills. They do a great job of providing information on the side of the bulletin as we're going through the service as to what that means from a scriptural standpoint, from a Episcopal church standpoint, and how the service progresses. Introduce yourself to people. Make an effort not to be shy, but to say hello. My elevator speech is the following, because I'm not there every Sunday, and I walk up to somebody and say, hey, I've never met you. My name's Lou Price. Maybe you've been coming before. I've never seen him before. And they might say, yeah, I go to 8 o'clock, or they might say, it's my first time I'm here. Oh, glad to have you here. And listen to them and try to understand why they came. What's their story? What brought them to the church? Answer any questions, but don't dump a lot of information on them. Encourage people to fill out a pew card. Give them a takeaway that tells them a little bit about our missions and what you're doing. Greeters are good. At Advent, we're starting to identify greeters, and we're training greeters, and they're as important as the usher. And it's a separate job from the usher's job. The usher can't do both. It's two different things. Name tags are important. Invite people to coffee hour if they're comfortable, but say, hey, if you'd like to, but don't push them too much. Next slide. Okay, if somebody comes back another time, or 2 times, or 3 times, they have some interest. So a good thing that Invite, Welcome, Connect recommends is to assign a shepherd to visitors, or you could call it a buddy of some type. That buddy can introduce the new person to other people in the church, the ministry leaders, get an idea of what might spark their interest, what they might be interested in doing, and ask them, can you can I call you every once in a while just to let you know that we have an event going on, or just to see how you're feeling, or see if with any questions you can answer, or if you don't see him for a while, hey, haven't seen you for a while, give him a call. Newcomers parties. I'm sure many of you do that. Those are great. Coffee hours are the perfect time to introduce people to other people. So in closing on Invite, Welcome, Connect is I encourage you to read the book that's presented on the first slide. They have a great website. There are lots of resources that are free that you can just grab off of the website. You can buy resources if you want to too. I think the diocese is starting to support in some ways this program, and we'll hear more about it. So I don't know if there are any questions about Invite, Welcome, Connect.
So what we like to do at this point is to break into groups, and Mother Caroline is going to do that for us. We're going to give ourselves about 15 minutes to talk. We are right on schedule. When we finish our time in the breakout groups, we'll get together again, and maybe one person from each group could share a thing that you discussed that was, you don't need to share everything you discussed, but maybe one thing you think would be most interesting to everyone.
Okay, so
Alright.
click to join the room that pops up for you. So Louis, do you see a pop-up box there? You should click on that.